The transmission cut through Earth's defense grid like a blade through silk, bypassing every encryption protocol humanity had ever devised. Admiral Corvain Dethrix watched the holographic projection materialize in the war room's center, a towering figure wreathed in bioluminescent scales, its 4 eyes burning with ancient contempt. "Primitive mammals of the third planet," the creature spoke, its voice resonating through dimensions humanity had barely begun to comprehend. "I am Nexarch Volthamus of the Hegemonic Circle. Your species has reached the threshold of galactic awareness, and thus you will submit to our dominion. Resistance is futile. Compliance is mandatory." The assembled leaders of Earth's unified defense coalition sat in stunned silence as the alien continued. "You have 72 of your rotations. To prepare your surrender, dismantle your weapons, open your cities. Prepare your strongest for labor, your brightest for study, your leaders for processing. This is the way of ascension." President Lyrillith Voss's jaw clenched as she leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" Volthemus's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Refuse?" 17 civilizations have stood before the Circle in the past millennia. 17 worlds now serve as reminders of our patience's limits. Your choice is submission or extinction. The transmission ended, leaving humanity's leaders staring at empty air. In the suffocating silence that followed, it was General Kieran Maltovich who spoke first, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "How many ships do we have combat ready?" 734 vessels across all classes, replied Fleet Commander Ravanna Holtzen, "against what appears to be a galactic empire." "Then we make them count," President Voss declared, rising from her chair. "I didn't claw my way up from the Martian colonies to bow to cosmic tyrants. Admiral Dethrix, begin Operation Prometheus immediately." Dethrix nodded grimly. For 5 years, humanity's greatest minds had worked in secret, developing weapons and technologies born from Earth's most dangerous imagination. Kinetic bombardment platforms capable of cracking moons, quantum tunneling torpedoes that could phase through conventional shields, and the crown jewel, the Ragnarok-class dreadnoughts, ships so heavily armed they required AI assistance just to coordinate their weapon systems. "The Hegemonic Circle has made one critical error," Dethrix announced to his staff. "They assume we'll behave like every other species they've encountered. They expect fear, negotiation, gradual capitulation." His smile was predatory. "They've never faced humans before." Dr. Yaelin Brightforge, Earth's leading xenobiologist, pulled up tactical analyses on her tablet. "Their communication suggests standard intimidation protocols. They've perfected this process through repetition. Show overwhelming force, demand, submission. Allow a brief period for the target species to accept their fate." 72 hours, mused Strategic Coordinator Thane Ironcrest. "They're giving us time to despair, to let fear paralyze our decision-making. Classic psychological warfare." President Voss's eyes hardened. "Then we'll use their arrogance against them. Send word to every ship captain, every station commander, every colony that can arm itself. Humanity doesn't kneel. We stand, we fight, and if we're going down, we're taking as many of these bastards with us as possible." As Earth's war machine began to mobilize, long-range sensors detected the first hegemonic vessels entering the outer system. The aliens came not as conquerors, but as collectors, expecting to find a broken species ready for harvesting. Instead, they would find humanity's answer written in plasma fire across the void. The hegemonic advance fleet materialized at the edge of the Kuiper Belt like mechanical angels of death, 60 vessels whose sleek organic curves suggested millennia of refined engineering. Their hulls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that served as both communication and intimidation. Fleet Admiral Corbin Stormwind observed them from the bridge of the UDS Defiance, humanity's first Ragnarok-class dreadnought. Around him, his crew worked with deadly precision, Their training focused on a single principle. When fighting gods, aim for the throat. Distance to lead vessel, Stormwind asked. 400,000 kilometers in closing, replied Navigation Officer Zena. Voidcaller. They're not even bothering with evasive patterns. Tactical Coordinator Bragan Nullstrike highlighted the alien formation on the main display. Typical supremacist approach, straight-line advance, minimal defensive positioning. They expect us to cower behind our planets and beg for mercy. Sir, Communications Officer Lyandra Quicksilver's voice carried an edge of disbelief. The lead ship is transmitting. They're demanding our surrender again. Same message, different voice. Stormwind's laugh was cold as vacuum. Patch. Me through to all ships. Full battle network. 600 human vessels spread across the system responded. Destroyers lurking in asteroid fields, frigates hiding in Jupiter's magnetosphere, cruisers positioned at Earth's Lagrange points, and 3 more Ragnarok dreadnoughts holding station at Mars. Today, we answer a question that's plagued humanity since we first looked at the stars, Stormwind announced. Are we alone? The answer is no. Are we afraid? The answer is hell no. These aliens think they've seen warfare. They haven't seen human warfare. Show them why Earth spawned predators. The first salvo came not from the human fleet, but from camouflaged defense platforms scattered throughout the system. Hundreds of relativistic slugs, simple tungsten rods accelerated to 12% light speed, streaked toward the alien formation. The hegemonic shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and conventional missiles, shattered like glass under kinetic impacts that delivered the energy of strategic nuclear weapons. 4 alien vessels died in the opening seconds, their hulls torn apart by impacts they hadn't even detected until too late. Impossible, whispered the lead alien commander, War Master Keldos, as his formation reeled from the unexpected assault. No species achieves relativistic kinetics in their first galactic war. Sir, their weapons aren't following standard physics, his tactical officer reported. These projectiles are somehow phasing through our hull matrix on impact. Keldos snarled, his confidence wavering. All ships, return fire. Plasma bombardment pattern 7. Reduce their homeworld to glass. The hegemonic response was swift and devastating, streams of coherent plasma that could vaporize asteroids. But the human fleet had already scattered, their ships dancing between Jupiter's moons like wolves in a forest. Now, Stormwind commanded. The UDS Defiance dropped its stealth field and opened fire. Its main cannon, a quantum tunneling device that could punch holes through dimensions, carved through 3 alien vessels before they could react. Around the system, humanity's fleet emerged from hiding spots their enemy hadn't imagined, unleashing weapons born from species that had turned warfare into an art form. Captain Draven Shadowmere's destroyer squadron used Jupiter's gravity well to slingshot themselves into knife-fighting range, their hull-piercing railguns punching through alien armor with surgical precision. Commander Saleth Ironborn's stealth frigates materialized inside the enemy formation, their fusion torpedoes detonating against unprotected reactor cores. Status report, Keldos demanded, his bridge shaking under human fire. 37 ships. Lost, sir. Their weapons are adaptive. Each hit seems designed specifically to exploit our defensive systems. Keldos studied the tactical display with growing horror. These humans fought like nothing in the hegemonic database. Where other species relied on overwhelming firepower or advanced shielding, humanity used cunning, deception, and weapons that seemed to violate several fundamental laws of physics. Retreat, he ordered. Emergency translation to hyperspace. We need to report this to the Circle. But as his surviving ships began their withdrawal, they found their hyperspace generators failing. Throughout the system, humanity had deployed quantum interdiction fields, another impossible technology that shouldn't exist. Welcome to Sol, Admiral Stormwind broadcast to the trapped aliens. Population, 8 billion humans who really don't like bullies. The battle for Earth's doorstep was about to begin in earnest. War Master Keldos watched his fleet die piece by piece, each loss defying everything the hegemonic circle had taught him about warfare. These humans didn't fight, they hunted. Every attack was precisely calculated, exploiting weaknesses that shouldn't have existed, using technologies that violated the established galactic paradigm. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies," his communications officer reported, her bioluminescent patches flickering with distress. They're mocking us." The transmission crackled through the bridge speakers, carrying the voice of Admiral Stormwind. "Attention, hegemonic vessels. You came here expecting sheep. You found wolves. Last chance to surrender before we demonstrate why Terran predators ruled their homeworld for 4 billion years." Keldos's secondary arms clenched in rage. "Activate the World Render. If we cannot claim this system, we'll ensure it serves as an example to others." The World Render weapon emerged from his flagship's core, a device capable of igniting a planet's atmosphere or destabilizing its magnetic field. It had been used only 3 times in hegemonic history, each deployment erasing a rebellious world from existence. "Target the third planet's primary population center," Keldos commanded. "Let them watch their homeworld burn before we finish them." But as the weapon charged, something impossible happened. The UDS Defiance materialized directly above the hegemonic flagship, its bulk blotting out the stars. The human dreadnought had somehow passed through the aliens' shields without triggering a single defensive system. "Physics lesson," Stormwind's voice echoed through Keldos's bridge as boarding pods launched from the human vessel. "Phase variance allows matter to occupy the same space at different quantum frequencies. We learned that from studying your first transmission." The boarding pods punched through the flagship's hull, and within moments, human soldiers were fighting through the corridors. But these weren't ordinary troops. They moved with augmented speed and strength, their powered armor adapting to alien weapon frequencies in real time. Sergeant Valeth Grimforge led the assault on the bridge, her tactical squad cutting through hegemonic defenders with plasma cutters and monomolecular blades. "Target acquired," she reported. "One very large, very angry alien commander." Keldos drew his ceremonial blade, a weapon that had never tasted defeat. "You dare board a hegemonic vessel? This is beyond war. This is sacrilege." "Sacrilege?" Grimforge's laugh was transmitted through her helmet's speakers. "Buddy, we haven't even gotten started. You want to see sacrilege? We're about to turn your flagship into a kinetic weapon." The human soldiers weren't just capturing the ship. They were reprogramming it. Their battlefield engineers, led by technician Zarion Codewright, had plugged directly into the vessel's neural network, turning its own systems against the hegemonic fleet. "How are they interfacing with our technology?" Keldos's science officer whispered in horror. "Our systems use bioneural pathways that require specific genetic markers to access." "Because," Grimforge replied, overhearing through the ship's compromised communication system, "humans are very good at reverse engineering things. We've been taking apart your tech for the past 72 hours. Your ultimatum gave us just enough time to understand your weaknesses." Throughout the system, the tide of battle shifted as humanity's true strategy revealed itself. They hadn't just prepared defenses, they had studied their enemy, analyzed every piece of data from the first transmission, and designed specific countermeasures for hegemonic technology. Captain Rylan Starbreaker's science vessel had been tracking alien communication patterns, learning to disrupt their command and control networks. Commander Jarek Voidhammer's engineering corps had developed viral programs that could infect bioneural systems, turning alien ships into unwilling allies. "Status of the fleet?" President Voss demanded from Earth's command center. 68 human vessels lost," reported Admiral Dietrich. "But we've destroyed or captured 90% of their advanced fleet. The survivors are trying to flee, but our interdiction fields are holding." "And their world render weapon?" Dietrich's smile was predatory. "Currently being retrofitted with human targeting systems. I think it's time we returned their message to the hegemonic circle. As the last alien vessels were subdued, War Master Keldos found himself face to face with Admiral Stormwind in his own command center. The human leader was smaller than expected, unremarkable except for the cold intelligence in his eyes. "Your circle made a mistake," Stormwind said quietly. "You assumed we were just another species to be cataloged and conquered. But humans aren't just another species. We're what happens when evolution arms intelligence with aggression and then gives it patience to plan." Keldos's remaining eyes widened as he processed the implications. "You were ready for us. This entire battle was prepared. From the moment your first transmission reached Earth," Stormwind confirmed. "We've been building, planning, preparing for this day. Because humans learned long ago that when someone threatens to destroy your home, you don't negotiate. You eliminate the threat permanently." The captured hegemonic vessels began broadcasting toward their distant empire, carrying a new message from Earth. Humanity's response to the Circle's ultimatum was about to reach the stars. 3 parsecs from the Sol system, the hegemonic monitoring station Vorthax Pride received transmissions that defied every protocol in their military database. Instead of surrender broadcasts or desperate pleas for mercy, the signals carried something unprecedented: human laughter. Station Commander Vexithen the Merciless had overseen 17 planetary subjugations. He understood the patterns: initial resistance, gradual despair, inevitable capitulation. But these transmissions suggested something else entirely. "Analysis complete, sir," his intelligence officer reported, her multiple limbs trembling slightly. "The advance fleet is gone, not destroyed, converted. Their vessels are now broadcasting human identification codes." Vexithen's mandibles clicked in disbelief. 60 ships? Impossible. Even the Caruthian Empire at its peak couldn't. The transmission cut off as new data streamed through their communication array. The signals now carried visual footage from the battle. Vexithen watched in growing horror as human vessels emerged from impossible hiding spots, their weapon systems operating on principles that shouldn't exist. But worse than the technology was the tactical sophistication. These humans fought like they had been preparing for galactic warfare for centuries. "Sir, incoming priority transmission from the captured fleet," his communications officer announced. It's addressed to the entire hegemonic circle." The holographic display materialized, showing Admiral Stormwind standing on the bridge of what had been War Master Keldos's flagship. Behind him, human technicians worked alongside captured alien crew members who appeared to be cooperating. "Greetings, hegemonic circle," Stormwind began, his voice carrying the calm confidence of a predator addressing prey. "I am Admiral Corbin, Stormwind of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Your advance force brought us a message about submission and compliance. We're returning your messenger with our response." The camera panned to show War Master Keldos, unharmed but clearly shaken, standing beside Stormwind. "Tell them what you told me, War Master." Keldos's voice was barely above a whisper. "They knew. We were coming. They were ready. Their entire civilization mobilized in 72 hours to prepare for war against an enemy they had never seen. This is not a normal species." Stormwind nodded approvingly. "Your War Master understands something important. Humans don't just fight wars. We study them, prepare for them, dream about them. We've spent our entire evolutionary history getting better at killing things that threaten us. You threatened us." The transmission continued as Stormwind walked through the captured vessels, showing human engineers integrating alien technology with their own systems. "Your mistake was giving us time to prepare. 72 hours was enough to reverse engineer your communication protocols, analyze your ship design principles, and develop specific countermeasures. Your arrogance became our advantage." Commander Vexithen felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 centuries: fear. Are they using our own ships against us?" "It gets worse, sir," his tactical officer replied. Long-range sensors show human vessels leaving the Sol system. They're not content to defend. They're advancing. The human fleet that emerged from Earth's gravity well was unlike anything in hegemonic records. The captured alien vessels flew in formation with human ships, their crews apparently working together. But more disturbing were the modifications. Human weapons grafted onto alien hulls, creating hybrid vessels that combined the best of both technologies. This is impossible, Vexithen muttered. Species integration takes decades. They've accomplished it in hours. Because, came a new voice over the communication channel, humans are very good at making friends with former enemies when they show proper respect. Captain Draven Shadowmere's destroyer had somehow infiltrated the monitoring station's perimeter, undetected. We're also very good at making examples of those who don't. The station's defenses activated, but they were designed to repel conventional attacks. Shadowmere's vessel used phase variance technology to pass through their shields, delivering boarding pods directly to critical systems. This is Sergeant Valith Grimforge to all hegemonic personnel. The human soldier's voice echoed through the station's corridors. Your commander has 30 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate why Earth's military doctrine includes something called shock and awe. Within minutes, Vorthak's pride was under human control, its databases being downloaded by Earth's intelligence teams. But the real prize wasn't information. It was the hyperspace beacon network that connected every hegemonic facility across 17 sectors. Sir, Technician Zerion Codewright reported to Admiral Stormwind, we've accessed their complete navigation database. Every military installation, every colony world, every command center. It's all here. Stormwind studied the galactic map with the patience of a chess master examining his next move. The Circle thinks in terms of single-system campaigns. They conquer one world, then move to the next. Very methodical, very predictable. What are you thinking, sir? Asked Captain Rylan, Starbreaker, her science vessel having joined the growing human fleet. I'm thinking they've never faced an enemy that could strike back across interstellar distances simultaneously, Stormwind replied. They've never fought humans before. Time to show them what total war looks like when practiced by a species that invented the concept. As the human fleet prepared for its next phase, emergency transmissions raced toward the hegemonic homeworld. The messages all carried the same desperate warning. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was hunting. And across 17 sectors, hegemonic commanders were about to learn why evolution had made humans the apex predators of their homeworld. The hegemonic home system of Velthorn Prime had stood unconquered for 8,000 years, its triple-layered defense grid protecting the administrative heart of a galactic empire. Nexarch Volthamus himself maintained his palace on the primary world, surrounded by the accumulated wealth of 17 subjugated civilizations. Today, proximity alarms were screaming. Report, Volthamus commanded from his crystalline throne, his 4 eyes focusing on the holographic displays surrounding him. Supreme Admiral Krexith's image flickered into view, transmitted from the outer defensive perimeter. The humans have arrived, Nexarch. Their fleet composition is unprecedented. Elaborate. 734 vessels, sir. But they're not just human ships anymore. They've integrated our captured technology with their own designs. Worse, they have allied vessels from other species. Volthamus felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. Allied vessels? That's impossible. The hegemonic circle allows no alliances outside our dominion. Sir, we're detecting ships from the Caruthian Empire, the Zathan Confederacy, and at least 6 other systems we've conquered in the past millennium. They're all flying under human command structure. The implications were staggering. Somehow, in the weeks since their failed advance on Earth, humanity had not only liberated multiple subjugated worlds, but convinced their populations to join a counter-offensive against the Circle. How? Volthamus whispered. The answer came from an unexpected source, Admiral Stormwind's voice broadcasting on all hegemonic frequencies. Because we asked them nicely. Funny thing about conquered peoples, Nexarch. They remember who conquered them. When someone offers them a chance at payback, they tend to say yes. The transmission showed the bridge of Stormwind's flagship, but it had been transformed. Alongside human officers stood representatives from a dozen species, Caruthians with their crystalline carapaces, Zathan with their flowing tentacle hair, others whose names were whispered legends among hegemonic forces. You see, Stormwind continued, while you were assuming we'd behave like every other species you've bullied, we were doing something different. We were listening to the voices of everyone you've silenced over the centuries. Did you know the Caruthians developed temporal displacement technology before you conquered them? Or that the Zathan had perfected matter compression? Fascinating what oppressed peoples will share when someone offers them freedom. The combined fleet began its assault, and it was unlike anything in hegemonic military history. Human tactical doctrine had been enhanced by centuries of alien scientific advancement, while alien weapons systems were guided by human strategic thinking. First wave incoming, reported Defense Coordinator Zelkros. Energy signatures are, I don't understand these readings, sir. They're using our own defensive frequencies against us. Volthemus watched in horror as the outer perimeter dissolved under coordinated fire. Human ships phased through his shields, while Caruthian vessels bent time around defensive positions. Zathan craft compressed matter to create micro-singularities that consumed entire defense platforms. "This is Supreme Admiral Krexith," came a desperate transmission. "All outer defenses have been compromised. The humans, they're not just attacking, sir. They're liberating. Every system they pass through joins their fleet." "Impossible," Volthemus snarled. "Our conquered worlds lack the infrastructure for rebellion." "Not anymore, sir. The humans brought construction ships. They're rebuilding entire civilizations in real time, providing them with weapons and vessels to join the offensive. It's not conquest, it's emancipation." Captain Ryland Starbreaker's science vessel had indeed been busy, her teams working alongside liberated engineers to convert hegemonic slave construction facilities into shipyards, producing vessels for the growing Freedom Fleet. Each world they liberated added not just ships but knowledge, technological innovations that had been suppressed by the Circle for centuries. "Status of the middle defensive ring?" Volthemus demanded. "Gone, sir. The humans use something they called cascade tactics. Each victory provides resources for the next engagement. They're growing stronger with every battle." Through the palace viewports, Volthemus could see the night sky burning. The inner system was ablaze with weapons fire as the Liberation Fleet carved its way toward the homeworld itself. "Sir," his personal aide whispered, "perhaps we should consider negotiation?" Negotiation? Volthemus's laugh was bitter. "What terms could we possibly offer beings who have already demonstrated they can dismantle our empire system by system?" The answer came as human boarding pods began impacting the palace shields, but these weren't the brutal assault forces Volthemus expected. When the barriers fell, the humans who entered his throne room were accompanied by representatives from every species the Circle had ever conquered. "Nexarch Volthemus," Admiral Stormwind said formally, "I present the Coalition for Galactic Liberation. We're here to discuss the terms of your surrender." Volthemus looked around the assembled species, beings whose worlds he had personally ordered conquered, whose peoples had been enslaved for his empire's glory. They stood not as conquerors, but as judges, their eyes holding the weight of centuries of injustice. "What? What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Justice," replied Caruthian Captain Vinthara, her crystalline voice ringing with authority. "For every world you stole, every life you destroyed, every civilization you erased. Accountability," added Zathan Commander Shelvos, his tentacles writhing with contained emotion. "For millennia of oppression disguised as order. And most importantly," Stormwind concluded, assurance that this never happens again. The age of galactic empires built on subjugation ends today. As the last hegemonic vessels surrendered throughout the system, Voltimus realized the terrible truth. Humanity hadn't just defeated his empire, they had transformed it into something entirely new. A coalition built on cooperation rather than domination, where strength came from unity rather than oppression. The hunters had been hunted. The empire had fallen, and in its place, something unprecedented in galactic history was being born. 6 months after the fall of Veilthorn Prime, the galaxy looked different. Where once the hegemonic circle had imposed order through fear, the Coalition for Galactic Liberation offered something revolutionary: voluntary cooperation between equals, Admiral C. Stormwind stood on the observation deck of the newly christened Unity Station, a massive diplomatic facility constructed in neutral space. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, he could see ships from dozens of species working together, not as conquered subjects, but as partners in an unprecedented galactic community. The Nexarch's trial concluded today, reported Captain Shadowmere, joining his former commander at the window. The Tribunal of Species reached their verdict. Stormwind nodded, unsurprised. The Coalition had established something unique in galactic history, a judicial system where former oppressors were judged not by their conquerors, but by representatives of every species they had wronged. Justice served by those who had suffered, rather than imposed by new victors. Life imprisonment, supervised rehabilitation, and mandatory service to the reconstruction efforts, Shadowmere continued. The Caruthians suggested something they called redemptive justice. He'll spend his remaining years helping rebuild what his empire destroyed. More merciful than he deserved, Stormwind observed, but that's what separates us from them. We don't rule through fear. The station's communication center chimed with an incoming transmission. President Voss's image materialized in the holographic display, her expression carrying the satisfaction of someone who had seen impossible dreams become reality. Admiral, the final reports are in from the Liberation fleets, the last hegemonic. Holdout systems have joined the Coalition. We're receiving membership applications from 17 previously unknown civilizations who emerged from hiding after the Circle's fall. Stormwind smiled, remembering the early days when Earth's leaders had faced impossible odds with nothing but determination and human stubbornness. How many member species now, Madam President? 43 confirmed, with another dozen in negotiation. The Galactic Council convenes next week to establish the new charter. The Galactic Council, another impossibility made real. Instead of one species dominating others, representatives from every member civilization would have equal voices in decisions affecting their shared future. It was messy, complicated, and utterly contrary to 8 millennia of galactic precedent. It was also working. Any word from the deep exploration fleets? Stormwind asked. That's actually why I'm calling, Voss replied, her expression growing serious. Long-range sensors have detected something troubling. There are other empires out there, Admiral, bigger than the hegemonic circle, and they've taken notice of our activities. Stormwind felt the familiar tingle of anticipation that had driven humanity to the stars. How big? Preliminary estimates suggest civilizations spanning hundreds of systems. The Circle was apparently considered a minor regional power by galactic standards. Captain Starbreaker's science vessel had been conducting deep space reconnaissance, mapping the galaxy beyond the former hegemonic territories. Her reports painted a picture of unimaginable scope, vast stellar empires that made the Circle look like a local government, alien intelligences so ancient they remembered the birth of stars. Are they hostile? Stormwind asked. Unknown, but given that they allowed the Circle to operate in their neighborhood for 8,000 years without intervention, they're probably not liberation-minded. Stormwind's reflection in the viewport showed a man who had aged considerably in the past months, but whose eyes still burned with the fire that had driven humanity from their single world to become the catalyst for galactic change. "Admiral," came another voice. Caruthian Captain Vinthera had joined them on the observation deck. "The Coalition fleets stand ready. Every species that gained freedom through human leadership has pledged their ships to whatever comes next." Behind her stood representatives from a dozen species, each offering the combined strength of their newly liberated worlds. The Zathan had provided their matter compression technology. The Caruthians offered temporal displacement capabilities. Others brought weapons, shields, and scientific knowledge that had been suppressed under hegemonic rule for centuries. "Then we do what humans have always done," Stormwind said quietly. "We stand together against the dark. We protect those who can't protect themselves. And if these new empires think they can intimidate us the way the Circle tried..." He turned from the viewport to face the assembled representatives of 43 species, each one a survivor of oppression who had chosen cooperation over conquest. They're about to learn the same lesson Nexarch Volthemus learned. Humanity doesn't bow. We stand tall, and now we don't stand alone. Through the station's vast windows, the combined fleets of the Coalition for Galactic Liberation stretched across space, hundreds of vessels representing the united will of species that had chosen freedom over fear, cooperation over domination. Somewhere, in the galactic depths, ancient empires were stirring, their attention drawn to the unprecedented alliance that had emerged from what they had considered a backwater region. They would come eventually, confident in their power, secure in their superiority. They would find 43 species who had learned something remarkable from their human allies, that strength wasn't measured by the fear you inspired, but by the hope you protected. That true power came not from conquest, but from the voluntary unity of free peoples standing together against the dark. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity, once alone among the stars, had found its greatest victory not in the ships they had built or the battles they had won, but in the simple act of extending their hand to others and saying, "Stand with us. We are stronger together." In the depths of space, new threats were gathering. But they would face not just humanity's defiance, but the combined will of an entire galaxy that had chosen to stand tall. The age of empires was ending. The age of freedom had begun.